Hello students, I am Dr. Savita from Maharaja Agrasen University, Baddi, Himachal Pradesh. Conflict is a form of interaction among parties that differ in interests, perceptions, and preferences. Conflict begins when one party perceives that the other has negatively affected or is about to negatively affect something that he or she cares about. According to Gray and Stark, conflict is behavior by a person or group that is purposefully designed to inhibit the attainment of goals by another person or group. The purposeful inhibition may be active or passive. Transition in the view of conflict. There has been a steady transition in the views on conflict over a period of time, with the traditional thinkers to the human relations to the interactionist giving their viewpoint. As it is seen in the figure also, the traditional viewpoint says that all conflict is harmful and bad, should be avoided. The human relations viewpoint is of the belief that conflict is a natural and inevitable outcome in any group and thus should be handled with care. The interactionist viewpoint feels that the conflict is not only a positive force in a group, but it is absolutely necessary for a group to perform effectively to achieve the goals. The conflict management process. The process of conflict encompasses the following steps, which are discussed in detail below. Stage 1. Potential opposition or incompatibility. Communication, structure, personal variables. Stage 2. Cognition and personalization. Stage 3. Intentions, dimensions of conflict, handling intentions, assertives, and cooperativeness. Stage 4. Behavior, a dynamic process of interaction, conflict intensity continuum, conflict management techniques. Resolution stimulations. Stage 5. Outcomes, functional versus dysfunctional. Stage 1. Potential opposition or incompatibility. This occurs due to communication gaps between the parties, groups, individuals, or the organizations and its members. It could also be due to the structural inefficiencies where the reporting relationships or the span of management or span of control is not in order and leads to conflicting situations. And the most important is the personal variables, that is the differences in individual personalities, values, attitudes, thinking, approach toward life, level of motivation, learning and unlearning abilities, etc., play a very significant role in giving rise to conflicting situations in the organizations. Stage 2. Cognition and personalization. Cognition and personalization is how a person feels and thinks about the conflict. It manifests itself in affective conflict, emotional conflict, and perceived conflict. Affective conflict. it occurs when competing emotions accompanying the incompatible goals and results in increased stress, decreased productivity, or decreased satisfaction for the individual. Emotional conflict. Emotional conflict is the presence in the subconscious of different and opposing emotions relating to a situation that has recently taken place or is in the process of being unfolded, accompanied at times by a physical discomfort and in particular by tension, headaches. Perceived conflict. This is a situation where it becomes aware that one is in conflict with another party. It can block out some conflicts. Stage 3. Dimensions of conflict handling intentions. Responding to conflict involves making a series of choices with solving the problem as the goal. Therefore, it becomes necessary to use a combination of assertive and non-aggressive tools to be successful. The specific approach taken should depend on the situation. Related to the third stage of the conflict process, intentions. Assertiveness, the degree to which the individual wants to satisfy his or her concerns. Cooperativeness, the degree to which the individual wants to satisfy the concerns of the other party. As can be seen from the figure 2 below, if the person is high on assertiveness and low on cooperativeness, he will compete. If he is low on assertiveness and high on cooperativeness, he will tend to accommodate. On the other hand, if he is high on both cooperativeness and assertiveness, he will go in the collaboration with the other party. If he is low on both cooperativeness and assertiveness, he will go in for avoiding the situation. If he wants to follow a middle path between assertiveness and cooperativeness, he will compromise in the given situation. Conflict resolution strategies. The key to managing conflict well is choosing and executing the strategy that best fit a particular situation. First one, collaborating. I win, you win. Fundamental premise, teamwork and cooperation help everyone achieve their goals while maintaining relationship. Strategic philosophy lead to creative solution that will satisfy both parties. When to use? When there is a high level of trust, when you don't want to have full responsibility, when you want other to also have ownership of solution, when people involved are willing to change their thinking, you need to work through animosity and hard feeling. Drawbacks. The process makes a lot of time and energy. Some may take advantage of other trust and openness. Second one is compromising. You bend, I bend. Fundamental premise. Winning something while losing a little is okay. Strategic philosophy. Attempt to serve the common good of both parties. When to use? When people of equal status are equally committed to goal. When time can be saved by reaching intermediate settlements. When goals are moderately important. Drawbacks. important values and long-term objectives can be derailed in the process, may not work if initial demands are too great, can spawn cynicism, especially if there is no commitment to honor the compromise solution. Third one, accommodating. I lose, you win. Fundamental premise. Working toward a common purpose is more important than any of the peripheral concerns. The trauma of confronting differences may damage fragile relationships. Strategic philosophy. Appease others by downplaying conflict, thus protecting the relationship. When to use? When an issue is not as important to you, it is to the other person. When you know you can't win. When it is not the right time. When harmony is extremely important. When what the parties have in common is more important than differences. Drawbacks. Credibility and influence can be lost. One's own ideas do not get attention. Fifth one is competing. I win, you lose. Fundamental premise associates winning a conflict with competition. Strategic philosophy. When goals are extremely important, one must use power to win. When to use? When you know you are right. When quick decisions is needed. When a strong personality is trying to steamroller you. When you need to stand up for your rights. Drawbacks. When escalate conflicts, user may retaliate. Sixth one is avoiding no winner, no loser. Fundamental premise. This is not the right time or place to address the issue. Strategic philosophy. Avoid conflicts by withdrawing, sidestepping, or postponing. When to use? When the conflict is small and the relationship are at stake. When more important issues are pressing you. When you see no chance of getting your concerns met. When you are emotionally involved. Drawbacks. Important decisions may be made by default. Postponing may make matters worse. Stage fourth, behavior, a dynamic process of interaction. Depending upon the conflict intensity, continuum of assertiveness and cooperativeness, various conflict resolution strategies are adopted depending upon the individual, of course. That is, whether he is interested in competing, compromising, avoiding, and collaborating or accommodating. Stage fifth, outcomes of conflict. Any conflict that is functional or constructive adds to the efficiency and outcome is called functional conflict. On the other hand, if the conflict is destructive and lead to the disruption in the smooth functioning of the organization is called dysfunctional conflict. The outcomes of conflict can be seen clearly in the figure given below. Outcomes of functional conflict forces people to articulate views and positions leading to greater clarity, makes it easier to see organizational values and priorities, serves as safety valve to blow off steam and still maintain relationships, increase in group cohesiveness, creativity from finding new ways to look at situations. Outcomes of dysfunctional conflict blocks achievement of organizational goal, reduces productivity, morale, job satisfaction, can cause heightened anxiety, absenteeism, turnover. Every conflict will call for an individual assessment of the situation to determine the appropriate combination. Keep in mind that true assertiveness allows you to meet your own needs while respecting rights of others. Sources of conflict. Organizational conflict. Sources of organizational conflict. Prominent among the sources of conflict in organizations are line and staff competition. The growth of a highly specialized, creative, well-educated staff poses a unique problem for line managers. Faced with a growing dependence on staff, line managers must adjust to a reduction in organizational power and prestige. Conflict in most organizations persists between line and staff because it is virtually impossible to define precisely the responsibility and authority relationship between the two. Organization individual disagreements. From one perspective, the conflict between the organization and the individual centers around the individual's failure to fulfill the organization's expectations regarding productivity or compliance with rules. From another, the conflict is often seen as resulting from excessive organizational demands. Such conflict may be overt or hidden from view depending on the perception each side has of the power of the other. Overlapping responsibilities. Organizations constantly change in response to personnel turnover, expansion, or contraction, the adoption of new policies, changes in external environment, and so forth. As a result, it is impossible to establish job responsibilities once and for all. When a change occurs, one person reaches out to assume more responsibility, another retrenches, and still another tentatively assumes responsibility for certain functions without knowing definitely who should be performing them. Thus, the stage is set for conflict. Functional interdependence. Conflicts between the organization's functional unit such as sales, accounting, and manufacturing are commonplace. The sales department is at odds with manufacturing because quality is too low and prices are too high to meet the competition. Although departments are separated on the basis of function, they can never function as completely autonomous units. They may somehow resist the constant urge to view the organization in terms of their narrow self-interests. Personality clashes. Individual differences in such personal qualities as values, attitudes, abilities, and personality traits are often the cause of conflict. Two managers may learn to despise each other thoroughly for reasons totally unrelated to their work, but their performance on the job may suffer because of it. Conflict management. The management within an organization should function in such a way so as to maximize the coordination of human resources and work system and to minimize conflict. There may be two approaches for managing organizational conflict: preventive measure and curative measures. In the preventive measure, management tries to create an environment where dysfunctional conflict do not take place at all. Conflict is not primarily a result of individual neurotic traits but arises under given conditions even when people involved are well adjusted. Since situation variable induce conflict, it is possible to modify situations so as to avoid conflict. The development of effective leadership, participate decision making, effective two-way communication with proper emphasis on upward communication, improvement in interpersonal relationship, provision for facilities and opportunities to develop informal groups may be some of the ways on which management would pay special attention. The curative measures includes the resolution of conflicts where they take place and become dysfunctional in the organization. Such preventive and curative attempts may be made in the following ways: by establishing common goals. Most of the conflicts assumes that incompatible goals are necessary antecedents for the development of conflict. It means that the existence of superordinate goals, common goals, will reduce the occurrence of dysfunctional conflict by changing structural arrangement. In some cases, the change in organization structure or some part of it can reduce dysfunctional conflict by reduction in interdependence. The basic reason in the intergroup conflict is interdependence along them. As such, less such interdependence, less will be the amount of conflict among them. Thomson distinguished three types of interdependence: pooled, sequential, and reciprocal. In the pooled interdependence, the various divisions of the organization are relatively self-contained and independent. In sequential interdependence, there is high degree of interdependence between two or more departments which might be using the product of others in a particular sequence. The units are most interdependent when the interdependence is reciprocal. That is, the output of various units becomes input for others. According to conflict model, the degree of conflict is high in the cases of later two relationship. That is, more the interdependence, more the chances for conflict. In organizations, such interdependence cannot altogether be avoided. However, instead of separating units organizationally, they can be separated physically. Physically separated, the conflicting groups has the distinct advantage of preventing more damage from being done and of presenting the creation of further rationale for fighting. The physical separation, however, is not a permanent measure for managing conflict. Reduction in shared resources. When two or more units are required to share resources, particularly scarce ones, the potential for conflict increases. The management of conflict suggests reducing such sharing. One technique for reducing such sharing is the increase in such resources so that each unit is independent using them. However, since resources are scarce, it is not always possible to do so, as such measure may be adopted for their optimum allocation. Exchange of personnel. Personnel of the conflicting groups may be exchanged for a specified period as a way of reducing and managing conflict. An exchange of people is very similar to role reversal, which is aimed at greater understanding between people by forcing each to present and defend the other's position. In a research study, it was found that the exchange of people program was effective at reducing conflict and speeding agreement. It was successful even though it was mandatory, involved the less influential members of the organization and was of relatively short duration. Creation of special integrators to resolve conflict. Organization may create provisions for the appointment of special integrators who may manage the interdependence of various groups so that unresolved matter can be solved through them. Reference to superior's authority. Conflicts may be resolved through the hierarchy. If resolution cannot be attained by two organization members, they may take the issue to a common superior who resolves the conflict by making a decision, such as decision is usually accepted by organizational members because of the organized superior authority of high-ranking individuals. Such a decision may not necessarily bring agreement, but it will usually be accepted. So students, let's now summarize what we have learned. Conflict is a form of interaction among parties that differ in interests, perceptions, and preferences. Conflict begins when one party perceives that the other has negatively affected or is about to negatively affect something that he or she cares about. The traditional viewpoint says that all conflicts is harmful and bad, should be avoided. The human relations school believes that conflict is a natural and inevitable outcome in any group, should be handled with care. The interactionist viewpoint feels conflict is not only a positive force in a group, but it is absolutely necessary for a group to perform effectively to achieve the goals. The conflict process encompasses 5 stages. Stage 1. Potential opposition or incompatibility arising out of communication, structure, personal variables, etc. Stage 2. Cognition and personalization. Stage 3. Intentions, dimensions of conflict, handling intentions. Stage 4. behavior adopts conflict management techniques. And stage 5, outcomes constructive versus destructive depending upon the conflict intensity continuum of assertiveness and cooperativeness. Various conflict resolution strategies are adopted depending upon the individual, whether he is interested in competing, compromising, avoiding, collaborating, or accommodating. Conflict can be prevented by emphasizing on the organizational goals, structuring the task, promoting communication, avoiding win-lose situations, separating conflicting groups, applying rules and regulations, limiting the group interactions, establishing integration roles. The outcomes of dysfunctional conflict are that it blocks achievement of organizational goals, reduces productivity, morale, job satisfaction, can cause heightened anxiety, absenteeism, and turnover, and reduces productivity, morale, job satisfaction. The outcomes of functional conflict are that it forces people to articulate views and positions, leading to greater clarity, makes it easier to see organizational values and priorities, serves as safety valves to blow off steam and still maintain relationships, increase in group cohesiveness and creativity from finding new ways to look at situations. There may be two approaches for managing organizational conflict: preventive measures and curative measures. In the preventive measures, management tries to create an environment where dysfunctional conflicts do not take place, and the curative measures include the resolution of conflicts where they take place and become dysfunctional in the organization. Such preventive and curative attempts may be made by establishing common goals, by changing structural arrangement, by reducing in interdependence, reduction in shared resources, exchange of personnel, creative of special integrators, reference to superiors authority. Thank you.